Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I just thought I'd return to you for this uh, official publicized video for the one you've been waiting for. That I did promise you guys I'd do for Icy Stars' Marathon Studio album reviews for the 5 albums. This is one of the 5 albums that I'm reviewing today for their debut studio album 3D that I got a chance to listen to for myself, see what I was going to think of it on a second listen, of course, because I know when I did the members only video back in June, like late June, I hope you enjoyed that. Now you get to see the publicized version of it for this new recorded take on it. So let's dive into this album review for the publicized version. So, yeah, Project Wake Up was a good song for how it sounded. I like the screams from Zach in this track. And I know there were two members of the band, Jeffrey Gregerson and also, or Jeff Gregerson or something like that. Um, and Zach was another one that was part of the band, the Unclean vocalist, for a few albums, and then he got kicked out at the New Demons album because of some allegations that were being brought up against the two. So there was some controversy with those two for the time, and that's why they let them go once they did the Treehouse album. And now they have a new album coming out pretty soon, but still, Project Wake Up's a good song. I like Devin Oliver's singing potential in this. I mean, it's their starting point to their discography, so it's not going to be the best record, but it's going to be something interesting. So 4.5 out of 5. The Common Hours is a good song for how it sounds. I like Zach's screaming potential in this track. Did very well for the most part, and Devin Oliver's singing was pretty solid too for this track overall. So I'd give this a 4.5 out of 5 for this track. 3D is the title track to the record, named 3D, which is a good song too. This one's going to get a 4.5 out of 5 for how it sounded. It did fairly well with the execution. Just overall, the electronic work in this track did pretty solid too, with the metalcore style, the electronic core stuff that they do with the majority of their music. So overall, I think 3D was an interesting track, and it's definitely something worth getting into. So 4.5 out of 5. Even Devin Oliver's singing potential was pretty solid in this. Save the Cheerleader, Save the World was a good song too. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5 as well. Didn't necessarily hate the song. I know when I reviewed this album as a members only review, which it's going to be the same thumbnail, keep in mind. Same picture thumbnail that I cropped together and all that. But it's just going to say album review. That's the only difference. So, just letting you know, that way YouTube doesn't say, oh, he duplicated the same thumbnail. I'm like, for a reason. To publicize this video. For a new recorded video to get publicized, of course. But you get the gist. So, Save This Cheerleader, Save the World was a good song, so 4.5 out of 5. Even Zach's screaming potential was pretty solid in this. The Big Bad Wolf was a good song, too. Weird track for how it sounds lyrically, but Devin Oliver makes it sound good with his singing potential for the most part. And just execution-wise, I think the track overall did fairly well. So, with Zach's screaming potential and all that. So, 4.5 out of 5. I am Jack Smirkin's Revenge. I am Jack Smirkin's Smirking Revenge, if I'm pronouncing it right. Might be slurring with how I'm pronouncing it, so please forgive me on that. Good song. Didn't hate it for how it sounded, so give it a 4.5 out of 5. Devin Oliver's singing potential in this is pretty good, and overall Zach's screaming potential too as well is pretty strong too. So I'm digging this. The Ocean was like a minute and 17 seconds of an interlude track, and it's not really much you go into with this track, but it's pretty solid for the most part. 4.5 out of 5. It just goes into the next track. Comfortably Confused, the next track, which I will talk about in a second. I think the mixing and production in this track was pretty solid. I don't think there was a lot of singing in this. There was just some background noise and the melody playing out. And the instrumentation and electronics in the track did fairly well. So Comfortably Confused is the next song, and it's another good track for how it sounds. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. I think the way Devin Oliver was singing this track was doing pretty well, and overall, Zach's screaming potential was pretty strong for the most part as the unclean vocalist, so a 4.5 out of 5 is well deserved for it. Where the Sidewalk Ends is a good song. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. It is one of the last tracks that I enjoyed before getting to the last two songs, which the next track we'll talk about my critiques about the next track. But overall, Where the Sidewalk Ends, Devin Oliver's singing vocals were pretty strong, and overall, Zach's screaming potential. Keep in mind, this is the album that started their career for an official album. I know they probably had some EPs or whatever not, but from what I listened to, yeah, Where the Sidewalk Ends is a 4.5 out of 5. Good song for how it sounds. Sing This featuring Busy Bone of Bone Thugs and Harmony. Decent track, not really one of my favorites. Probably the least favorite for this record. So it's a 4 out of 5. It's gonna kind of downgrade the record's reception, but it overall panned out alright for the most part. 4 out of 5. It's just a decent song. It's not really something you can come back to and remember, but it's something that is listenable, but just not one of the best things they've put out for the start of their career. And then finally we get to the closing track, What This Means to Me. Good song for how it sounds. I think they had a music video for this track, but it overall panned out alright with the melody, the execution, how the vocal deliveries were sounding from Devin Oliver and Zach. And just execution-wise, this track pulled it off pretty well. So, 4.5 out of 5 for the closing track for What This Means to Me. Good song. Overall, production, mixing, and execution-wise, I think Icy Stars 3D for their debut studio album was a average listen. Not anything that I'm gonna really come back to a lot, but it's something I can listen to because it's not bad for how it sounds. And like I said, it's gonna get the same rating I gave it on my members only review. It's gonna get a 7.5 out of 10 still. It still stands on that rating because this was probably their weakest record in their discography, but it starts getting better as you get through the rest of their albums. But overall, I think 3D was the starting point, which wasn't a bad starting point, but it wasn't the best starting point, if you get what I'm saying. There was just some songs that I just don't know if I was feeling for. But it was mostly Sing This that was the lacking reception of the track, and some of the other tracks were good, but they still had, I had my critiques with some of those too, with how it was sung by Devin Oliver, and just the mixing and production was kind of getting relied on too much, with the electronics a little too much, which, you know, with Icy Stars, you're going to get electronic core, metalcore kind of stuff. So that's what you're expecting. If you're expecting anything pure metalcore, you're going to be in for disappointment because it's electronic core / metalcore. This is what the band identifies with their genre. So overall, 7.5 out of 10 for Icy Stars 3D. I hope you enjoyed this album review for the first of the 5 Marathon Studio album reviews for the publicized videos of Icy Stars for their albums. And I should have the next one coming out in the next few days. But until then, thanks for watching.